Hello, welcome back to my second week of the 7-Point Highlander Australian Highlander tournament. Unfortunately this week I've only got one match. I was matched up against an opponent that had already dropped, so this is just going to be one for this week. And this is who I'm versing. This here is my opponent, and he is on Fastbond Wheels. So let's have a look through, see how we stack up against what's going to be the Fastbond Wheels deck. So again, first we're going to look at the land base here. We notice there is a Dryad Arbor, there is a Wasteland, and a Strip Mine. And this makes sense, the Dryad Arbor, because of the Green Suns in the finale, being able to get yourself a mana dot, getting that ramp is very useful. And the Wasteland and Strip Mine are useful because of the Fastbond and Remnant Excavator lock. That is a pretty late game tactic though, so I wouldn't expect it to come up too much, and Remnant being a creature means it does just die to removal, and it's counterable as well. So anyway, let's move on to the real meat of the deck here. We've got our cantrip suite of Brainstorm, Ponder, and Preordain. We have some cheap counter magic, the 1 mana counters of Spell Pierce and Spell Snare. Some cheap removal in Bloodchief's Thirst and Fatal Push. Our hand attack with Inquisition and Thoughtseize. Lightning Bolt just being a all-star. I'm kind of interested to see the 1 mana red removal spell here, given that red is just mainly a splash for this Ren and 6 on this wheel. But Lightning Bolt is a very good card. I can definitely see it fitting in the deck. And then of course you have the namesake card Fastbond and the cheapest Planeswalker printed Deathrite Shaman, especially good in the deck that's going to be wheeling a lot, putting cards in the graveyard with Wheel of Fortune. So there's going to be lands with fetch lands and stuff. There's going to be lands in the bin for this Deathrite Shaman as well. Onto the 2 mana stuff, we have some counters, the evasive action and the counter spell, the card advantage of Dark Confidant, pretty good. The curve stops at 3. Apart from this Titania, but it doesn't matter. It's mainly stops at 3. Regrowth for those important cards that end up in the bin. Maybe you want to bring back a wheel, bring back one of your value creatures, whatever. Scavenging Ooze, again, you're putting lots of stuff in the bin. If you're versing graveyard decks, this is kind of your main board hate against those. Baleful Strix, just a good value defensive creature. Abrupt Decay and Assassin's Trophy for some removal, and then the Powerhouse of Ren 6. I play this card. It's just very strong against a lot of cards in the format, and especially in this deck, being able to get lands back from the graveyard. This is very much a land-spaced deck. It's all about manipulating your lands, so being able to get those fetch lands back and those wastelands and the strip mines back are going to be very strong. And then all the scary cards really are here in the 3-drop slot. All of the combos and the wheels. So Hull Breacher combos with wheel. A wheel. Narset combos with wheel. Dismember for a bit more removal. This is, should be just a 1-drop here. A wheel. Barligated Recovery is another land and a regrowth. This is a nice because you can actually play it from your graveyard as a land if you have your Remnant up in play. Just an interesting modal double face card, synergy there. Dryad, because this, it's a 4-color deck, you're not going to hit your lands all the time, so Dryad definitely helps. And of course you can ramp a little bit as well if you don't have the fast one to play. Remnant Excavator, very strong, lands from the graveyard. Crucible may be another inclusion in this deck. Although it not being a creature means it can't be tutored for off this Green Suns, off this finale. Tireless Tracker, if you're playing lands, you want Tracker in play. It gets big, it draws cards, it's fantastic. Courser, again, just combos with Fastbond, and getting lands off the top of your deck is incredibly strong. Ewit for the same reasons as Regrowth, and Barligated Recovery, just to get cards back from a graveyard. Is Green Sun Zenith and Finaleable, so hey. Uro, because it wouldn't be a blue-green deck without Uro. And the scary man Leovold himself. This is what I assume is going to be a lot of Green Sun's targets, although you know, there's a lot of good hits. This is definitely a good Green Suns and Finale deck. And of course Titania for just a super late game. Being a 5/3 doesn't really scare me that much. You know, I have the Bolt, I have some stuff to be able to deal with her, and by 5 we should have a decent hold on the game. And then of course the Green Suns and Finale we've been talking about this whole time. So really this whole deck's game plan is to get to 3. You've got to get to 3, and you have to drop one of your wheel combo cards, Hollow Breacher, Narset, Leovold, and then you wheel. That's the game plan of this deck. The Fastbond's in here to go fast, so the Fastbond is not really what I'm going to be looking to counter. Obviously, I have the Mental Misstep, so if it comes to it, I will be countering the Fastbond. But the Fastbond isn't really the problem here, which is interesting because it's a Fastbond deck. But if they can put Fastbond into play, I don't really care. What I care about is specifically the wheels. You know, there are a few cards in my deck that do get caught out by this can't draw more than one card a turn, but they're not as scary as the wheels. The wheels, trying to keep my opponent's card advantage cards in hand on lock is going to be more important. And so it's going to be interesting to see how well this deck can play without the wheels, because I really have to focus on playing around the wheels when I can. And I think given what I'm seeing there, it definitely has hands where it is able to play against my deck without the wheels. Especially after the sideboard. So in the sideboard we see the 4 blasts. Like I said, if you're playing blue and you're playing red, you're playing the 4 blasts. Carpet of Flowers against the blue decks. I'm not sure. Firstly, I do expect the red blasts to come in. Not sure about the blue blasts. The Carpet of Flowers I do expect to come in as well, because I am base blue and they can use the extra mana pretty well. Duress against the counter decks, I expect this to come in as well. The hand attack is really good against my deck specifically, including Duress, so that's something to be wary of. Relic against the graveyard decks probably won't come in against me. Abrade probably will come in, not specifically for the artifact, but just being able to wipe a body off my board is kind of important in this matchup. Collector Oof and Nullrod not really going to be coming in. Opposition Agent probably will come in. I have fetch lands and they probably just need bodies on the board. So this it's not certain because I'm not really a tutor kind of deck, but it might or might not come in depending on how they feel. Toxic Deluge will be coming in. I expect this to come in. I will have to play around this. Liliana the Last Hope will also probably be coming in because my deck has a hard time dealing with these Planeswalkers if I can't get an aggressive enough start. So, especially on the play, I expect Lily to come in, because that -2/-1 also kills a decent chunk of my creatures. Glenolindra, I expect it to come in. Force of Vigor, I don't expect it to come in. So as you can see, if we do a little rejig here, Magic Unlock doesn't like that. So if we do a little rejig, this is what I expect the opponent to bring in, and possibly this opposition agent as well. Also possibly the blue blasts if they feel like it. Like I said, I don't have too many red cards, so I'm not and they don't really have that much of an impact on the opponent's game plan, so I'm not sure if the blue blasts come in, and the opposition agent will come in if they feel like they need the extra creatures. But I expect all of this to come in, which is just a lot of counter hate against my deck, basically. You know, there's some creature 1, 2, 3, creature hate, counter hate, counter hate, counter hate, counter hate, and then just some good mana ramp. So it's just creature and counter hate, which is all my deck is really. And so, you know, I expect, honestly, I don't know why I expect to come out. It's hard to say from their deck. Maybe the counterspell and comes out because it's not as good as these red blasts. Maybe we see Titiana come out because she's too slow. But it's kind of hard to pick what to come out for these cards, because their deck can't become too dilute. They still need these Fastbond Wheel card combos. Probably Scavenging Ooze comes out actually, and maybe the Regrowth, maybe not. But yeah, it's gonna be an interesting game. I think it's gonna be interesting to try and deal with it. If we just switch over to my deck, we can have a look here. I think my deck's set up fairly well to be relatively aggressive with my creatures and my counters. So I think I will be able to tempo them out if I get a good couple counter spells off against, you know, the important wheels. After sideboard, I am expecting these red blasts to come in. I may even bring in a blue blast, maybe 2 blue blasts, because as you see, there's not a whole lot of red cards here. There's 1, 2, and 3, and after sideboarding 4, 5, and maybe 6. But that's not a whole lot, so I don't know how much I like this blue blast, although the blue blast does deal with wheel and red and 6, which are both very important cards. But it can be really bad to draw late game. But the 2 red blasts will come in. Veil of Summer will be an all-star if I draw it against the hand attack, against the counters. It will be very, very nice if I can get it. Soul Guide won't come in. Abrade probably will, because that the Leovold, the Hull Breacher will both die to an Abrade. Pyroclasm won't come in probably, neither will the Oof. The Return to Nature might, depending on how Fastbond performs for them. And I do see that they have potentially 3 or 4 different, you know, regrowth effects, so exiling a target card from a graveyard might come in handy. So this might come in, or it might not, depending on how I'm feeling. Clothies probably will come in. I feel like this is going to be a slightly longer game, and so Clothies is probably going to come in, and Submerge also will probably come in, just because bouncing a Leovold or bouncing a Hull Breacher in response to a wheel is really where we want to be. So yeah, I think it'll be an interesting game. I think my counters will probably serve me well in the first game. I do have to play a little bit conservatively, but I need to get some pressure down against some early Planeswalkers, against some early creatures, and really pick my moments. So yeah, hopefully it goes well, and I will see you in the first game. Alright, let's get into the game. Now, this is a bit of a post-mortem as it stands. I wasn't able to record this live, so this is just a replay of the match. So let's hit the play button here and see how we go. So we've already lost the die roll, chosen Lutri as our companion. The starting hand is pretty decent. Opponent leads with a fetch and we reply with an island. They play a trop and pass it back. We're just holding up counter magic here, draw the Wooded Foothills, and choose not to play the Young Pyromancer here into the counter magic into the kill spells. And we want to hold up the counters to the important cards. We'll fetch our Triome here to get that out of our deck, play a Forest, and now we can play the Pyro because we have the Spell Snare back up for the counter spell. So we force that Young Pyro through. Opponent lets it live for that turn, very nice of them, and plays a Dryad into a red and 6 to kill our Young Pyromancer, which is super unfortunate. That's some great value for them. We draw Vista, Chain Lightning the red and 6 because that's a problem, Vista for our island, and then cast this Hooting Mandrills because it can get through this Dryad, and we're holding up Mana Leak as well as the Ice if we really need it. So opponent here has the Wasteland, decides not to fire it off just yet, is just wheeling, so I Mana Leak them just to get them off the mana for their new fresh 7. This puts Uro into the bin for us, which is fine. So we draw our 7. It's okay. We play our mountain, attack with Hooting Mandrills. Opponent decides not to block. Very interesting. Not very interesting. Smart move. Then we play this Oko here and just make a food. Oko can take 2 off the Dryad, that's fine. So they play a Tracker and a whole bunch of lands. I don't bolt it because they could just crack clues in response. They try an Assassin's Trophy my Oko, I try for the reband, but they counter. So Oko goes down, we get a forest. They fetch, making so many clue tokens. This Tracker is insane. And they go into a Scoos to get rid of my Uro. Very good fresh 7 from the opponent. And they even get to get in for 2. So we are a bit on the back foot, but we do have 6 cards in hand now. So we do bolt that Tracker, get it out of here, swing in with the Hooting Mandrills, and then play our Jace and the Breeding Pool untapped to hold up both Daze Hardcast and Brazen Borrower to perhaps bounce the Scavenging Ooze. Opponent ponders into a Courser of Crufix and a Strip Mine, which is super problematic. That's really quite good against us, being able to take us off all these lands. Opponent gets in for 5, we'll just take the 5. And we see that they're drawing Hull Breacher, which is a little scary. And they have Hull Breacher in hand now, actually. So we're going to just hardcast this Brazen Borrower, and they flash the Hull Breacher in response. And as they're out of mana, we get to daze it. Not every day you get to see a daze with the opponent having 10 mana on board. So we draw a Spell Pierce, not great, but better than this land. We can bolt the Scavenging Ooze and then play our DAC. Uptick DAC targeting ourselves, and this is an interesting decision. You can see that I chose to discard the Serum Visions and the Spell Pierce. Spell Pierce not being at its best, and Serum Visions just worse. We need to hold up this Force of Will to counter the Dismember on the Brazen Borrower. They wasteland my Breeding Pool and then pass through the steps. So I just gain life off the food. They swing in for 4 at DAC and then dismember the Hooting Mandrills. I decide to let it go because the Brazen Borrower is more important. They draw a card off a clue. I get to keep DAC alive, which is pretty sweet. So in for 3 with a Borrower, up DAC, get rid of Force of Will looking pretty bad here in this island. And I'm playing an Ethereal Forager here, which is actually incorrect. I'm choosing what to get rid of. Exile a land off the DRS to try and draw into the counter that I knew about, and I can't pay because of the Dryad of the Elysian Grove, making it all their lands, all colours. So I actually couldn't pay. I forgot about the Dryad, which was just super loose. So now they nast it, meaning I can't DAC to draw cards. Play some lands off the Courser, Brainstorm on top. They preordain into the Brainstorm. And we see a Finale of Devastation on top, which after playing lands from the top of their library, shuffles away into a Titania, which is a big problem. They push the Borrower to get it off the board. Again, if I had mana up I could snap counter, but DAC goes down. They didn't really need to kill DAC, but I guess if they're scared of me killing Narset and going through, they exile to gain some life. I click them, which is again incorrect. I take the Titania, but they have enough mana to cast this Finale for X equals 10 and credit hoof their whole board. And again, they're wastelanding my Breeding Pool, taking me off that 1 extra blue that I would have needed to be able to snap counter. Super unfortunate. In hindsight, I probably should not have Vendilion clicked the Titania upon seeing Finale on top of their library, but I wasn't going to beat 5 mana to 2 5/5s and more than 2 5/5s because they could wasteland Strip Mine, and they would have like 20 power on board and I'd have no land, so I wasn't winning that anyway. Super close game, but I do go down. So let's move on to game 2. Alright, so we're here in game 2. We are choosing to go first and Companion Lutri. This hand didn't do much, so we go into this more aggressive hand with the Spike Dragon and the Hull Breacher, leading on the Triumph tapped. Opponent Volk into Relic, which is an interesting card to bring in. I'm going to pause here for a second to talk about this Relic, because throughout the game you'll see they activate it every turn and exile cards from my graveyard, which I don't think is exactly how you want to be fighting against this deck. This deck is trying to throw a couple creatures on the board and protect them with the counterspells, so while going after my graveyard does stop, the Uros and the Delve spells, it's not really the axis you want to attack the deck on. You're kind of wanting to more play against the counters or play against the creatures, because the graveyard is just incidental value that this deck can take advantage of, rather than a main point you're trying to combat. But anyway, they play a Relic, I play Island, and I choose to go for the Sprite Dragon here just to get the early damage in, because this Dreadhorde Arcanist is just a 1/3 against a Relic, so I guess it also stops that, but with just Veil in hand it's not very good. So they crack a Bloodchief Thirst. There was consideration for holding up Veil of Summer and playing the Sprite Dragon next turn, this turn, but they would have had Counterspell up anyway, so I just throw a Dreadhorde Arcanist down instead of going for the Hull Breacher for this turn. Again, trying to fade another kill spell, because the Dreadhorde Arcanist isn't really as important as the Hull Breacher. Fetch for Steam Vents in the face of Baleful Strix. Baleful Strix pretty good. I decide not to trade off on this turn, which is probably just incorrect. I should probably just attack there. And now I can flash in a Hull Breacher in the end of their turn, or with Veil of Summer back up. They do Wasteland my Triome. I let it go through. I'm deciding not to Hull Breacher this turn, just to hold up Veil of Summer. I draw in a Braid, which is pretty good to get rid of this Baleful Strix. Again, I'm not too concerned about this Relic, and in fact I don't even fire the Braid off on the Strix. Opponent plays land, passes back, we get in again. They finally decide to trade it off and get rid of my Arcanist. So I'm just keeping some Braid in hand. The Relic is not too problematic for me, and if I fire it off, they just draw a card anyway. So now I'm going to put this Hull Breacher in. Opponent responds with a Hull Breacher of their own, which I just abrade on my next turn, because I don't want to get got by a Spell Pierce or something. They get rid of it, and now I have a Hull Breacher and a Veil of Summer to protect it. Opponent plays a Dryad Arbor into Titania, which is quite a strong play to wasteland me off red, which means I can't play this Renin 6 to kill this Dryad Arbor. And I can't swing in with this Hull Breacher, but I do draw an Oko. They exile my land, so I can Oko and Oko this Titania. Oko can trade with this Elemental. Oko takes 4, goes to 1. Then if I hit a red for Renin 6, I can kill the Dryad Arbor and Oko survives. Now they play a Narset and find a Counterspell, so I know this Veil of Summer is going to be important. I do trade off it with the Elemental to save Oko to give me that potential chance of winning. And here we go, and I don't draw the red source. And not only do I not draw the red source, I draw a red spell that I just can't cast. So I put Lutri into my hand, holding up Veil of Summer, and Oko ups, and then dies to Dryad Arbor plus Titania. Narset reveals another counter spell for them, and they play a Tireless Tracker, which is just going to run away with the game if I can't draw a red source, and I don't. I draw an Uro, which I play for 3 life. Probably incorrect in the face of this Narset, because if I get this Renin 6 down, I can just kill the Narset, and then I finally get my card draw. But I just try and gain the life, try and just stabilize a little bit. And of course they exile both my Oko and my Uro, which is a little unfortunate. Passing back to the opponent here, there it goes, there goes my Uro, and then they crack a clue from the tracker, draw a card, play a land, fetch land of course, make some more tokens, make some more clues, make the tracker bigger, swings in for 4, I take it, and there's not too much more I can draw here at this point. They've got such a strong value engine going on. So I finally draw my red source, I Chain Lightning the tracker, they crack a clue in response to make it bigger, and then I Lutri in response to that to Chain Lightning the tracker to kill it. They try an evasive action, but I have the Veil of Summer. Unfortunately I don't draw off that due to the Narset. but they cannot pay the 2 red to kill my loot tree, which is, I guess, nice. It's a little bit of a parting value. Now, there was consideration to killing the Narset and the Titania with the double chain lightning instead of going after the Tireless Tracker, but I can red and 6 down the Narset and loot tree can trade with the Titania, and it's just a 3-3, so I seem to have almost stabilized here, because my red and 6 can come down next turn. But the opponent's still got 4 cards in hand, fetches, and plays an Uro of their own. And this is a huge problem. There's not much I can do at this point against an Uro, which they can just straight up escape here. And they have 11 other cards in their bin, so even if I kill it, they can escape it again. So I need like a Brazen Borrower here or something. And they run the Fastbond out as well, just because. So I draw an Izzet Charm, red and 6 down the Narset, because this Izzet Charm is probably going to have to loot. And I don't attack to trade off against this, a trade off for this Titania. They don't swing in with it, they just swing with the Uro at my red and 6. I decide that my red and 6 is not worth saving, it's not really doing much on this board. So I don't block, red and 6 goes down, and then opponent fetches and draws. So they're out of clue tokens, finally. But there's the Excavator, which we have to kind of be aware of. They've only got the Wasteland for the Wasteland lock. They don't have the Strip Mine, so I guess I'm still technically in this. But then they ran in 6, and we draw a Mana Leak. They Spell Snare my Izzet Charm to try and draw, and this is pretty much it. There's nothing I can do at this point to try and get back in this game. They've just got to lock, kill my loot tree, swing in for almost lethal, and I'm dead next turn no matter what I draw. So yeah, super cool games from the opponent. They had a very strong deck. I think just their deck being slightly more mid-rangey than mine means they could just go over the top. And I'm just not fast enough to really get down. There was consideration on turn 2, instead of playing the Sprite Dragon, to hold it and then keep it protected with a Veil of Summer on turn 3. That's certainly a consideration. The problem is that runs into counterspells, and then if I have to use my Veil of Summer on a counterspell and they kill it anyway, with like that Bloodchief Thirst, it's kind of like, I mean, I guess it gets a counterspell out of their hand, but it's sort of you end up with the same sort of solution where I would have had the Veil of Summer for that evasive actions, and so they would have kept their Tireless Tracker and countered my loot tree. So either way, I don't think that play affected the result, but yeah, super sweet deck from the opponent, and I do go down in 2 games. Really cool deck. So that is super unfortunate. That puts me at an overall record of 1-1 and 2. My other opponent actually dropped out for this round, so I got a match win from that. So yeah, 1 win, 1 draw, and 2 losses at the moment after week 2, and we'll see how week 3 goes next week. Thanks for watching.